All right, good morning, good afternoon, maybe even good evening. Hope you're doing well. Today is May 18th. It's Monday. Again, I call this the weekend update, but technically it's a preview for the upcoming week in both my U.S. history and world history classes. Hope you had a good week. It's kind of a weird Monday. It's raining outside, um, and we're almost in June, so a little kind of weird weather. Anyhow, hope you're doing well. It feels like things are starting to loosen up. I actually went for a drive on Saturday, and a lot of people were out, and it feels as if the if maybe the state mandated restrictions haven't lifted completely. Um, that phase one. I think phase 1 through 4, maybe that's it. But I think the first phase is open, and people are starting to get out. There's still social distancing, but it's good to see people out getting some sun and some vitamin D. Hope you are as well. Okay, so what are we doing this week? I'll start with U.S. history. I'm going to try to be brief. U.S. history, again, we're going to be wrapping up kind of the 1960s, the civil rights movement. We look at the end of that with LBJ, Lyndon B. Johnson. Remember, he is the vice president when Kennedy gets assassinated in 63. And so he takes over. We're going to be looking at his Great Society. FDR was known for the New Deal. Many different presidents have different policies they're known for. LBJ Johnson was known for the Great Society. There's also a term known as guns and butter, which you'll be reading about. This idea where the government's going to pay for both the guns, which is the Vietnam War, and then the butter, which is trying to have a war on poverty in the United States. So these are two pieces that we're going to be looking at, the Great Society, and then focus on guns and butter as well. Also look at the 1965 Voting Rights Act, as well as we're going to look at some immigration reform. So read through that in the textbook. We're going to be focusing on two court cases. You already were exposed to Brown versus Board at the beginning of this unit, but we're going to look at that. And we're going to juxtapose it against Tinker versus Des Moines School District. So if you're a student and you wonder how many, obviously you're a student, but if you're a student who wonders how much power you really have at school, if your civil rights and civil liberties are protected, this court case, as you look at it, is going to help kind of determine by the courts how much freedom you actually have at school. So you will be giving me a little written piece on comparing those two court cases. Okay, and then for world history, you're going to be looking at the modern Middle East take shape is the name of the unit, and you're going to be kind of looking at the Middle East, and there's a lot to look at the Middle East after World War II. British and European interest wanes, and the Middle East begins to grow. There's more nationalistic power. Many of the nation states there take control of their oil. They take it back from European neocolonialists. And so that gets pretty interesting. Also, at the end of World War II, you want to look at there's something called the Balfour Declaration. And remember, the people of Israel do not have their own nation. And at the end of World War II, the United Nations recognizes Israel. And they basically drop it right down in the middle of Palestine. And this is going to create a long-lasting contention, a point of friction. And the argument's pretty complex and deep. You'd need to take like a graduate course just on the modern Middle East. But I'll give you just a few little pieces. You have three religions that claim kind of the Middle East. Palestine is the Holy Land. You've got your Christians, you've got your Jews, Judaism, and then you're going to have Arabs, and they all kind of are fighting for this Holy Land and claiming that they were there first. And this is going to create some friction, and which will eventually lead to a few short wars. So keep an eye on that as you read through. What's the other? So you're going to have a reading in the textbook that talks about the modern Middle East and how it takes shape. And you're going to have the 5 questions at the end, like I've been doing during the remote learning. But you're also going to watch a short video on the creation of OPEC. That's OPEC. And you're going to look at what role oil played in developing the Middle East. And we talk about, in my course, we talk about the PERSIG. So we talk about political, economic, religious, social, intellectual, and geographic. And that acronym is going to take place here. So when we look at oil and why oil helps kind of develop the Middle East. And when you're looking at that, I want you to think about what's going to happen to the Middle East if the rest of the world eventually gets off its addiction to oil. If we move into a reliance on non-fossil fuels or renewable resources, that'll be an essential part of what happens geopolitically in the Middle East over the next maybe 20 years. All right, that's it. I tried to be short. I think I'm at about 6 minutes. Hope you're well. If you have any questions, shoot me an email. Hey, no more late work. I cut that policy off. It's either due Friday at 11:59 or I won't accept it. I've been accepting it for 10 weeks. No mas. So we really have 3 weeks left. The last week, I'm going to have something kind of fun. It won't be too stressful. And we'll have a chance to kind of reflect. I'll probably do a Zoom, an open Zoom for everyone to come in and say hello, goodbye. 2020, hopefully next fall, we're back into the swing of things. Again, if you have questions, shoot me an email. Thank you. Have a great day.